Hoth Hats.
Echo Station 3TA.
We have spotted Imperial walkers.
Imperial walkers on the North Ridge.
Like pretty much everybody in my generation, I've had an obsession with Star Wars since I was 4 years old. And my first Luke Skywalker action figure happened to be Hoth Luke. So I've always had a soft spot for the Hoth outfit that Luke wears in The Empire Strikes Back. And so I've always wanted the pieces of that outfit. I've gotten the Echo Base coat from Columbia, and I also wanted that cool hat that he and the other Rebel soldiers wore. You know, Han wore it under his hood. The other Rebel soldiers had darker scarves with it. But I just thought it looked like a cool, practical piece of gear, and I always wanted one. But I'm not good with a sewing machine, and I didn't know how I was going to find one. But thankfully, Mr. Hemmings on Etsy delivered for me, and I wanted to talk about how that all came to be because it's kind of a cool little story that I didn't realize I was stepping into. So let's get all this Hoth gear off so that you can actually see the hat, because the hat is actually buried under a lot of paraphernalia. First, you've got your snow goggles, of course, which are necessary, but in the way. And then you've got the scarf itself, which kind of gives the hat this turban sort of appearance. So what we do is I'll take the hat off to show you. The scarf is wrapped around on this side. This side would normally be for that communicator device, that radio that sticks off the side, which I haven't acquired yet. But the hat serves as sort of a billboard up top so that the scarf wraps around it and then tucks right over his right ear. That's the best way I've seen to get the scarf attached to the hat and not come off. And then, of course, that allows you to wrap it around your face when you need to, and tuck it up under the elastic band of the goggles. So for the purposes of getting it off, you just pull it right off the top. If you know how to fold it back around it again, it's not a big deal. So this is the actual hat that's underneath all of Luke's scarf and goggles and radio and all that kind of stuff. And it has, a partly quilted lower piece that covers his ears and wraps around the back of his head with these sizers that are used. These are they're actually a channel for a narrower elastic strap for his goggles. So the goggle strap would then go through all these, so the goggles don't get lost. They don't come flying off the helmet hat. Now the story behind this is that I was looking for one of these, and I'm not good at sewing, as I said. And I thought, well, I'm going to go on Etsy and find someone who can put this together for me. Maybe they've already got someone making them. And the first few that I saw were always, they were made in China or they were made in Europe. And so the shipping was really high and the accuracy was a little dubious. But then I ran across this one. And I saw it on Etsy and I thought, wow, that looks really good. And it was from a guy named Mr. Hemmings. And I said, okay, great. Well, I'm going to buy that one because it looks dead on. So I bought it and it showed up. And when it did, there was a nice note inside saying, thank you so much for being my first customer. And I was like, wow, I'm his first customer. And he had sent me the Han Solo face mask with it. He'd made the Han Solo mask because, Han didn't wear a scarf. He had this little sort of like face covering that he pulled down. And he sent me that with it, just as a thank you for being the first customer, which I was blown away by. And then I found out, this was just a few months before Rogue One came out. And then I found out that he was doing a Rogue One hat, which is similar because Rogue One's set during the original trilogy, so the Rebels wear kind of the same gear. So he made a Rogue One version of this hat, which is really cool. And it's got the more army green khaki kind of look to it with the leather strap on the bottom to go under the chin, so you could be, Melshi from the Battle of Scarif. And I bought that one because I was like, man, this is cool. And I wore this one, if you recall, at the beginning of the Rogue One special. I wore this one with Broken Vader when he was showing me the AT-ACT. And the quality is just great. I mean, really nice canvas, really good stitching. He's got the proper details where they need to be, the proper quilting pattern. On the Rogue One version of the Hoth Hat, it's a square quilting. And then on the actual Hoth Hat itself, it's a diamond pattern quilting. But then I found out that Mr. Hemmings had done about 100 of these hats, and he had, leveled up, as it were, and he had decided to sell a 2.0 version of the Hoth Hat. So of course I was in, because, I can take the first hat and use it as part of a Han Hoth configuration, and I can take the second hat, his 2.0, and make my super accurate Luke Skywalker getup from that. And what I really liked about his construction of the hat is that it's very feasible from the way he builds these so durably. They're everyday wearable. So not that you'd wear this in the dead of summer or anything like that, but he believes that this is a functional piece for wintertime. And I agree. That's kind of why I like the Columbia version of the coat rather than a costume version of the coat, because they put all the lining in it that's very thermal, and so you can wear it and have that Hoth experience in the winter. But yet at the same time get all the accurate details of the outfit. And Mr. Hemmings' hat is no different. So just to show you the differences between the two, the improvements that he made to the hats, they're pretty neat. So I thought the first one was, this one right here, was just dead on. But if you notice on the back, the sizers on the back, those little clasps for the goggles, elastic strap, are a little bigger. They're a little chunkier on the original than they are. They're more refined here. This one's actually also made out of a completely new material. It's a different cotton. This is more of a heavy canvas. This is more of a finer, cotton weave or something like that. If you go on his store on Etsy, Mr. Hemmings Workshop on Etsy, he gives you all the details about how he makes these hats. The other cool thing about these is that they're not fitted exactly so that you'd be out of luck if you got one and your head was a little different size. He actually has, and I'll show this to you in close-up, but he actually has a built-in Velcro adjustment system inside the back of the crown of the hat. So you can, I'll have to show this to you in close-up, but you can actually size this to your head several inches in or out. So it's not something where you have to get your head measured exactly right for this to work. But he does ask for your head measurement if you're buying one custom to order. And then what he does is he makes your head size the midpoint, and then he puts those adjustments on either side of your head size, which is pretty neat. The really cool thing that I like about what Mr. Hemmings is doing is that he really likes this design. Like, he's truly passionate about this hat construct. For example, he sells it in different colors. He sells it in camo. He sells it in pink. He sells it in Hoth, white, and then he sells it in Rogue One khaki and olive drab. He likes this, and his passion comes through. He likes this hat. I know he's also working on some Rebel helmets for Rogue One. I'd love to see him do a Rebel helmet from Endor. Hint, hint, Mr. Hemmings, do an Endor helmet. I will be your first customer. But I just love it because it's so durable. If there was one thing that I would say would be a nice addition to this hat as far as usability, because certainly in the movie The Empire Strikes Back, these hats were not designed to be, they were not designed to give you warmth. They were designed to look a certain way. And in that respect, he's really nailed it. If there was one thing that I would add for the purposes of usability in the wintertime, it would be that the top of the hat, while accurate, is not padded for insulation. These earpieces are actually fairly well quilted and would probably protect you pretty well from some cold wind. But the top of the hat is not, and it would be great to see sort of like an insert that you could get, like a flannel insert for the top of the hat, so that if you were wearing this in the wintertime, it would keep the heat from your head in the hat itself rather than escaping through the top. But that's if you're eccentric like me and you plan to wear this in the winter. I don't know why anybody would want to wear these during a comic book convention, simply because the Hoth outfits are for winter. And even though they weren't designed for warmth in mind because they were science fiction, when you're around 70, 80,000 people in a comic book convention and you're in pseudo winter wear, you're going to burn up. I mean, you're just going to melt into your boots. So I've always looked at the Hoth outfit as something I would like to replicate for usability and for actually having it for the wintertime. And Mr. Hemmings has done that for the headgear. Where Columbia did it for the actual coats, Hemmings did it for the headgear. So I'm a big fan of his shop, and I hope he continues to make these hats and find, success making other replicas of some of the Empire Strikes Back and original trilogy gear. So I just wanted to share these with you because we're about to start Star Wars Follies 13, Snowblind. So expect one of these hats to show up in that video as well, which will be coming soon. So thanks for watching this. Keep your tauntaun warm, and we will see you on the next video, Star Wars Follies 13, Snowblind.